Hi, I'm Karen Easter Bayne, and I've been asked to talk with you about the ministry of administration. And yes, administration actually is a ministry. It's part of every kind of ministry. And without competent, capable administration, no ministry is going to go very well. We profess an incarnational faith in Jesus Christ and a practical theology shaped by John Wesley. Administration is the incarnational way that we put our faith into action. It is the practical nuts and bolts, the actual doing of ministry and accounting for it and tracking it and measuring it and equipping people for it that makes ministry possible and helps us to live out our call in the world. Administration is a lot of things. You might just think of it as filling out charge conference reports, but it's so much more than that, and it's something that we use every single day in pastoral ministry. It's time management and budgeting and equipping people first by getting the right people on the bus through your nominations and discernment about leadership, and then equipping them to do their work well so that they can use their gifts, their time, and their service in ways that are meaningful and fruitful. It's being accountable to your people and being able to provide the information they need to develop trust in you as their leader, as their pastor, and in trust in the church. It's also the stewarding of people and time and money and your property for God's work in the world. That's all administration. I know administration is not the shiny, sexy, exciting part of ministry that you probably can't wait to get involved in every day. It's probably not what you went to seminary looking forward to learning about. It's not what you felt at the heart of your call to ordained ministry. Maybe for a few of you it is, but for most of us it's not. However, I've learned in my almost 20 years of ordained ministry that it is absolutely essential to be capable at the administrative aspects of ministry, to be competent in it, and to be able to connect those administrative parts of your work with the bigger faith story that we all are part of. People begin to get excited about being involved in ministry and excited about being part of your community of faith when they can see and hear and you can show them and explain to them in a compelling and beautiful way how what they're doing, whether they're leading a committee or spending part of the church budget or giving their time in various ways, when they see how that fits into the bigger picture of your church's mission, of Jesus' call for us to make disciples and transform the world, they begin to get excited about that. They find meaning in it and they want to give more. And so it's a great way of unleashing the potential and the power of your people and your resources for God's work in the world. Consider what Todd Bolsinger says about administration, about competence in this area of ministry in his wonderful book, Canoeing the Mountains. He says, leaders must demonstrate competence in fidelity to scripture and traditions, the nurture of souls and communities, and fruitfulness in tasks and teams of people. That's administration. In order to develop the credibility that will be necessary later when the hard work of adaptation begins. We all know we're moving off the map these days in being part of leading the church. We are going into uncharted territory. And in order to lead our people well into the unknown and into places where they don't feel as stable and as competent, we have to develop trust with them. They have to believe that we are competent in the things that we do so that they're willing to go where we believe God is calling us to follow. And trust begins by being competent in your administrative tasks, meeting deadlines, doing what you say you will do when you say you will do it, knowing the ins and outs of the money that the church has been made responsible for, helping people spend their time effectively when they come together for meetings. All of those things really matter in developing trust with your congregation. And there's a biblical precedence for it too. Moses began to develop competence in administration when his father-in-law Jethro came alongside him and began to show him how he could manage his time better, how he could delegate some of his tasks to other people, how he could equip other leaders to help them do their ministry and help him to reserve his time for what was most important for him as the people's leader. And Paul certainly mastered the ministry of administration as he organized churches, as he trained and supervised leaders, as he even stopped preaching and traveling at times to raise the budget, to evaluate the monetary needs for what he was doing, as he made tents. That's how he raised the budget, and that's how he supported his ministry. And we also know that Jesus was more than competent and included administration in his ministry. Think about it. He organized teams of people. He gave them clear instructions on what they were to do and how to do it. He equipped leaders. He gathered and measured resources, such as loaves and fishes, in order to make his miracles possible, in order to bring the kingdom of God into being, and in order to express God's presence with the people in tangible ways. Developing competence in and paying attention to administration can unleash your people, your congregation, your money, your property, even yourself for more fruitful and faithful ministry. It can be fun as you gain competence in these areas to see that you are being more efficient and more effective in all the things that you do. I want to give you 4 tips, just simple things that I've learned over the years that have helped me in this area of ministry. One is at the end of every day, before you go home from work, from the church, sit down for 2 minutes and make a list of what you need to accomplish the next day, or what your priorities are, the deadlines that you have to meet, the people you need to call, the things you need to check on, whatever it is that you want to make sure you don't miss and that won't get overlooked when all those interruptions happen and other things come along during the next day. I found that so helpful to come in the next morning and already know it's already written out, whether it's in notes on my phone or on the computer or on a post-it note somewhere where I have easy access to it. It's the first thing I look at in the morning after my devotionals, and it helps me get a quick start on the day. And at the end of the day, I check it off again to make sure that I have not lost sight of the things that were most important to accomplish that day. And along with that, I use my calendar all the time for planning. So if I have a deadline, maybe a major project that has to be completed in, say, 2 months, I work backwards from there and I write down on my calendar at various places along the way. I pick out days when I'm going to work on that project so that I don't wait till the last minute and then there's no way I can get it done. That helps me budget my time so much more effectively. Secondly, budgeting is so important. As the pastor of the church, you need to have a really clear and full understanding of your church's budget, what the different funds are, where they come from, if there are any restrictions on them, how those different sources of money can be used, and what's available to the different ministry teams within your church. And then don't stop there. Make sure that you can communicate that in a clear and easy way to all of your lay leaders. every ministry team and the leader of that team needs to know how much money they have available for their work that year. They need to get some reports throughout the year on here's what you've spent and here's what you have left. And then encourage them to actually spend that money because it was given and promised with the expectation that that ministry was going to be done with those funds. And as people in the church see that what they've given is being used effectively, they're excited about giving more. It's a great way to improve your stewardship. Third, I've started developing a leader's handbook for every church that I serve. I've found that we have such gifted and excellent people in our churches who have great leadership skills, but oftentimes they are used to working with colleagues and work professionals and not so much with volunteers. And working in a faith environment is so different than in a secular environment, as you know. And so sometimes they're a little anxious about taking on a leadership position because they don't know what's expected of them. They don't know how to motivate volunteers and disciples in a way that's going to be effective. And they need some information from you to help them be as effective as possible. So a leader's handbook can be as short or as long as you want it, but give them some basics. Like, here's a devotional you can use to open your team meetings with. Here's some written prayers you can use if you're uncomfortable leading prayer in public, but be sure that you include prayer in every time your group gets together. Here's some ways you can show and express appreciation for your team members. Here's how you can turn these meetings into moments for ministry with one another. Here's how you can run an effective meeting and not let someone dominate the conversation or waste lots of valuable time. You know, those kind of things can be so helpful to teams, committees, and leaders within your church. And finally, I want to talk to you about the use of compelling stories. Never think about administration as just facts and figures and reports and deadlines and busy work. Administration is a way to tell your story, connect people with their faith story, connect people with the mission of the church, connect people with Jesus's call to make disciples and transform the world and serve the poor and do all the things that your church is feeling called to do. Make sure you have a scriptural basis that you can connect each area of the church's work to and remind people of that regularly. Make sure you can show people and tell in an exciting, compelling way how what they're doing or what you're doing as a church meets the mission of your church and fits with what you feel called to do. As you do these things, you will find that not only do you have more time for the other parts of ministry that you long to do, but that every aspect of your ministry will be more effective and you'll be able to communicate it well to other people, and it will free you up to do amazing things. May God bless you in your ministry, and I look forward to seeing you again.